Jnanakosha, Puranas, Introduction.
सर्गच्च प्रतिसर्गच्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Vayu Purana. Geography. Swayambhu Manu had two sons named Priyavrata and Uttanapada. Priyavrata had 100 sons. 10 of these were named Agnidhara, Pushman, Medha, Medhatiti, Vibhu, Jyotishman, Jyutiman, Havya, Savana and Sarva. When Priyavrata decided to retire to the forest, he divided up his kingdom among 7 of his sons. Since Priyavrata had ruled over the entire earth, this is how the earth came to be divided into 7 regions, Dvipas. Agnidhara inherited Jambu Dvipa, Medahiti Pulasha Dvipa, Vapushman Shala Dvipa, Jyotishman Kushadvipa, Jyutiman Kronchadvipa, Havya Shakadvipa and Savana Pushkaradvipa. Agnidhara, the ruler of Jambu Dvipa, had 9 sons. Their names were Nabhi, Kimpurusha, Hari, Ilavrita, Ramya, Hariman, Kuru, Bhadrashva and Ketumala. When it became time for Agnidhara to retire to the forest, he divided Jambudvipa among these 9 sons. Nabhi inherited the region that lies to the south of the Himalayas. This is the region that subsequently came to be known as Bharatavarsha. The word Varsha signifies region. Kimpurusha received Hemakuta Varsha, Hari Nashad Varsha, Ramya, Nilav Varsha, Hariman, Shweta Varsha, Bhadrashva, Malavanya Varsha and Ketumala, Gandhamadana Varsha. Ilavrita inherited the region around Mount Sumeru and Kuru the region to the north of Mount Shringhavana. Nabhi had a son named Rishabha and Rishabha's son was Bharata. It was after Bharata that the region which Nabhi ruled over came to be known as Bharatavarsha. Mount Sumeru, alternatively Meru, is in Jambudvipa. This has a very high altitude and gold can be found in abundance. There the eastern slope of the peak is white and is associated with Brahmanas. The northern slope is red and is associated with Kshatriyas. The southern slope is yellow and is associated with Vaishyas. The western slope is greyish and is associated with Shudras. You will remember that Brahma appeared from a lotus flower. Meru was formed out of the stalk of this flower. It is impossible to describe Mount Sumeru. The various sages who have attempted to describe it do not agree in their description. This is because each sage saw and thus described only one part of the peak. The sage Atri described it as possessing 100 angels. The sage Bhrigu maintained that it had 1,000 angels. The sage Savarani thought it was octagonal. The sage Bhaguri's description suggests that it had the shape of a quadrilateral. The sage Varshayani maintained that it was as shapeless as the ocean. The sage Kraushtuki described it as circular, and the sage Gargeya said that it had the shape of a woman's braided hair. It is only that the great Brahma who can describe Mount Sumeru adequately. But it is known that there are many beautiful valleys in the region surrounding the peak. These valleys have ponds with limpid water and lotuses bloom in thousands in these ponds. There are also many places with bejeweled pillars and golden gates. There are landing strips where the Vimana, space vehicles of the gods, can descend. Apart from the places, there are several hermitages frequented by the sages. But most wondrous of all is Brahma's famous assembly hall located atop mountain Sumeru. This assembly hall is known as Manovati. The Vayu Purana now describes the mountains, rivers, ponds and valleys belonging to the different Varshas. These we will gloss over and concentrate only on the description of Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha is bounded by the Himalayas to the north and by the ocean to the south. Bharatavarsha is divided into 9 regions. The names of these regions are Indra Dvipa, Kaseruman, Tamarapani, Gobhastimana, Nagadvipa, Saumya, Gandharva and Varuna. This adds up to 8. The 9th region is an island that is surrounded by the ocean on all sides. It is not very easy to travel from one region of Bharatavarsha to another. The transportation problems are enormous. The southern tip of Bharatavarsha is known as Kumarika, Cape Comorin or Kanyakumari. Beyond the boundaries of Bharatavarsha live the disbelievers, that is, those who believe in the Vedas. To the east live the Kiratas and to the west live the Yavanas. Bharatavarsha proper is populated by Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. There are 7 major mountain ranges in Bharatavarsha. These are known as Mahendra, Malaya, Sahaya, Shaktimana, Riksha, Vindhya and Paripatra. There are several other minor ranges, amongst which are Mandara and Raivataka. Rivers abound in the region, owing their sources to the mountains. The rivers Ganga, Sindhu, Saraswati, Shatatru, Chandrabhaga, Yamuna, Sarayu, Airavati, Vitrasta, Vipaksham, Devika, Kuku, Gomati, Dhutapapa, Vahuda, Drishtadvati, Kaushiki, Tritiya, Gandhaki, Nishachira, Ikshau and Lohita. Brahmaputra originate from the foothills of the Himalayas. The rivers Vedastruti, Vedavati, Vrita Ragini, Parinasha, Vandana, Satira, Mahati, Para, Charamanavati, Vidisha, Vetravati, Shipra and Avanti originate out of the Paripatra range. This identifies the Paripatra as the Aravali range. The rivers Shona, Narmada, Mandakini, Darshana, Chitrakuta, Tamasa, Pippala, Shroni, Katroya, Pisachika, Nilottama, Jambula, Valuahini, Sitarja, Shuktimati, Makruna and Ridveva originate from the Riksha range. This range does seem to be the mountain around Shota Nagar. Tapi, Tapati, Payoshini, Nirvindhya, Bhadra, Nishada, Vena, Vaitarini, Shitivahu, Kumudvati, Toya, Mahagauri, Durga and Anthashila are rivers that owe their source in the Vindhya range. From the Sahaya range there originate the rivers Godavari, Bhimarathi, Krishna, Veni, Vanjula, Tungabhadra, Suprayoga and Kaveri. The Sahaya range thus corresponds to the western Ghats. From the Malaya range originate the rivers Kritimala, Tamravani, Pushpa Pajati and Uttapalavati. In the Mahendra range are found the sources of the rivers Trisama, Kratu Tulya, Ishkula, Tridivya, Laghuluni, and Vamsadhara. The rivers Rishika, Shukumari, Mandaka, Mandavahini, Kupa, and Palashini originate in the Shaktimana range. Astronomy. The earth is made up of 5 elements. These are earth, wind, sky, water, and energy. There are 7 regions in the world, Patala. These are known as Atala, Sutala, Vitala, Gabhastala, Mahatala, Shritala, and Patala. The ground in Atala is dark in color. In Sutala it is pale. Vitala has ground that is red. In Gabhastala the ground becomes yellow. The Mahataka it is white. There are numerous stones and boulders in Shritala, but in Patala the ground is laced with gold. Snake sentiments live in the underworld. Atala is ruled by the demon Namuchi, Sutala by the demon Mahajamba, Vitala by the demon Prahalada, Gobasthala by the demon Kalanemi, Mahatala by the demon Virochana, Shritala by the demon Kesari, and Patala by the demon Vali. The great snake Vasuki lives in Shritala and the great snake Shesha lives in Patala. Vasuki is the king of the snakes, Nagas. He was the son of Daksha's daughter Kadru and the sage Kashyapa. Usually Vasuki and Shesha are regarded as synonymous, the name Ananta also being used. The eyes of the snake Shesha are like red lotuses. His complexion is white and he wears blue. In his 1,000 hoods glow with radiance. Just as there are 7 lokas which constitute the nether regions, there are 7 lokas which constitute the upper region. The universe consists of 14 lokas. The 7 lokas which form the upper region are named Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swarloka, Maharloka, Jnanaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. The smallest unit of time is a nimesha. The time it takes of the eyes to blink. 15 nimeshas constitute a shakta. 30 kashtas are a kala. 30 kalas make a muhurta, and there are 30 muhurtas in the space of 1 night and 1 day. The 30 muhurtas in a day are divided into 10 units, each unit consisting of 3 muhurtas. The unit that corresponds to the time of sunrise is known as Pratap. The next unit is called Sanghava. Forenoon is followed by Madhyana. Next come Apaharana and Sahivana. These 5 units made up of 15 muhurtas form the day. There is an equal number of muhurtas in the night. This should not be taken to mean that day and night are always equal. Sometimes the day is longer than the night, and sometimes the night is longer than the day. Day and night are equal twice a year. These 2 occasions are the precise midpoints of early autumn, Sharat, and spring, Vasanta. 15 days make up 1 paksha, and there are 2 pakshas in every masa. 2 masas form a ritu, and their 3 ritus are called in ayana. There are therefore 2 ayanas in every varaha year. Months Magha, Falguna, Chaitra, Vaishakha, Jyeshta, and Ashadha are referred to as Uttarayana. Correspondingly, the months Sravana, Bhadra, Ashwini, Kartika, Agharahayana, and Pausha are referred to as Dakshinayana. Swayambhu Manu had 2 sons named Uttanapada and Premaprata. Premaprata's descendants have already been mentioned. Uttanapada had a son named Dhruva. Dhruva pleased Vishnu through his tapasya and obtained the boon that place would be reserved for him in the sky. Dhruva became the pole star. This is in the constellation of Shushumara. The moon, the sun, the planets, and the stars all revolve around Dhruva. The sun's chariot is made of gold and is drawn by 7 horses. These horses are named Gayatri, Trishtupa, Anushtupa, Jagati, Pankiti, Vrihati, and Ushnika. There are 12 Adityas in each month, 2 Adityas, 2 sages, 2 Gandharvas, 2 Apsaras, and 2 Rakshasas ride on the sun's chariot together with the sun. This is as follows: the months Chaitra and Vaishakha, the Adityas Data and Aryama, the sages Pulasya and Pulaha, the Gandharvas Tumburu and Narada, the Apsaras Kratushtahala and Pupunjikasthala, and the Rakshasas Heti and Praheti. The months Jaishta and Ashada, the Adityas Mitra and Varuna, the sages Atri and Vasista, the Gandharvas Aha and Uhu, the Apsaras Menaka and Sahanjanya, and the Rakshasas Parusheshya and Vadha. The months Sravana and Bhadra, the Adityas are Indra and Vivarsana, the sages Angira and Bhrigu, the Gandharvas Vishwa, Vasu and Ugrasena, the Apsaras Pramolecha and Nimolecha, and Rakshasa Vyayagraha and Shweta. The months Ashwin and Kartika, the Adityas are Paranjanya and Pusha, the sages Bharadwaja and Gautama, the Gandharvas Vishwavasu and Surabhi, the Apsaras Vishavachi and Grishtachi, and the Rakshasas Apa and Vata. The months Agrahayana and Pausha, the Adityas Amsha and Bhaga, the sages Kashyapa and Ritu, the Gandharvas Chitrasena and Urnayu, the Apsaras Urvashi and Viparchiti, and the Rakshasas Vidyut and Supraja. The months Magha and Falguna, the Adityas Swashta and Vishnu, the sages Jamadagni and Vishwamitra, the Gandharvas Dhriti, Tarashtra and Suryavarsha, the Apsaras Tilottama and Rambha, and the Rakshasas Braho, Mapeta and Yagnopeta. The moon's chariot is drawn by 10 horses. These horses are named Vayu, Trimana, Vrisha, Raji, Bala, Vasa, Turanya, Hamsa, Vyavami, and Mriga. Buddha's Mercury chariot is drawn by 8 horses, Shukras by 10, Mangalas by 8, and Brihaspati's, Jupiter's, and Shani's Chitra also by 8. Shiva's blue throat. Many years ago in Satyayuga, the sage Vasistha met Kartikeya, the son of Shiva and Parvati. Having worshipped Kartikeya, the sage said, "Please tell me how Shiva's throat came to be blue." "I do not know the answer, and I will satisfy your curiosity," replied Kartikeya. "I was once on Mount Kailasa sleeping on my mother's lap. I heard my mother Parvati ask my father how his throat came to be blue, and I will relate to you Shiva's reply. The gods and the demons once got together and decided to churn the ocean. The gods and the demons were desirous of obtaining the Amrita that was expected to emerge as a result of the churning of the ocean. But when the churning began, some terrible poison came out, and the gods and the demons were despondent at the sight of that poison. Since they thought that it would destroy them all, they therefore fled to Brahma for protection. "Why are you so despondent?" asked Brahma. "A terrible poison named Kalakuta has emerged as a result of the churning of the ocean," replied the gods and the demons. "It is threatening to destroy the entire universe. It has even turned the great Vishnu's complexion black." "The only solution is to pray to Shiva," said Brahma. "He alone can deliver us from the effects of this terrible poison." Brahma and the other gods started to pray to Shiva. Shiva was pleased at these prayers and appeared. He swallowed up the poison, but such was the strength of the poison that it made Shiva's throat blue. The word Neela means blue and Kantha means throat. Since Shiva became blue of throat, ever since that day he has been known as Neelakantha. Vedavyasa. The sages requested Lomaharshana, please tell us how the sacred Vedas came to be divided. Lomaharshana recounted the following story. When Dwapara Yuga arrived, Brahma noticed that people were becoming evil and were no longer paying sufficient attention to the Vedas. They were gradually deviating from the righteous path. Brahma decided that the Vedas needed to be divided so that their wisdom might be disseminated among people. Brahma accordingly instructed Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa to divide the Vedas into 4 parts. Vedavyasa had 5 disciples. These were Jaimani, Sumantu, Vashiharapayana, Paila and Lomaharshana. The 4 parts into which the Vedas were divided were known as the Rig Veda, the Samaveda, the Yajurveda and the Atharvanveda. Paila was taught the Rig Veda, Jaimani the Samaveda, the Yajurveda and Sumantu the Atharva Veda. As for me, continued Lomaharshana, the great Vedavyasa taught me the Puranas. Paila passed on what he had learned to the sage Indra Pramati and Vashikali. They were Paila's disciples. Indra Pramati's disciple was Markandeya. From Markandeya, the knowledge passed successfully to Satya Shrava, Satyahita, Satya Arata and Satyashri. Satyashri had 3 disciples named Shakala, Raitra and Bharadwaja. Shakala was so proud that his vanity led to his destruction at the time of the King Janaka's horse sacrifice, said Lomaharshana. We don't know the story, responded the sages. What is this horse sacrifice that you are talking about? Please tell us the story. This is the story that Lomaharshana told. King Janaka organized an Ashwamedha Yajna. People came from far and near to attend the ceremony, and numerous were the sages who graced the occasion with their presence. King Janaka began to wonder if there were many ways of finding out who was the best among all the assembled sages. He devised a plan. Janaka decided to donate 1,000 head of cattle, 1,000 gold pieces, many villages and several servants. He then told the sages, I have gathered all these riches as a tribute to knowledge, but I am unable to decide who amongst you is the most learned. Why don't you decide for yourself? Let the person who is the most superior among you claim all this wealth for himself. Hearing this, the sages started to fight and argue. Each wanted the wealth for himself. Therefore, each sage maintained that he was superior to all the others. Amongst the sages was the great sage Yajnavalka, and Yajnavalka told his disciples, take all this wealth to my home. I am the most learned among the sages. I have studied the Vedas really well. I will debate with anyone who dares to challenge me and establish my supremacy. The other sages were naturally not at all pleased to hear these words, and they began to debate with Yajnavalka. Even though all the sages combined against Yajnavalka, they were no match for him, and Yajnavalka easily defeated them. Yajnavalka then addressed the sage Shakalya. What about you, Shakalya? He asked. Why have you kept quiet? I know that you are full of vanity about your learning. What about debating with me? It is you who are proud and vain, retorted Shakalya. I will bring you down a peg or two. I am certainly going to debate with you. The debate started. Shakalya asked Yajnavalka more than 1,000 questions, but Yajnavalka provided the right answers to all these questions. Then he told Shakalya, I will ask you a single question. If you cannot give me the right answer, I curse you that you will die. Shakalya did not know the answer to the question that Yajnavalkya asked. He therefore died. But prior to this event having taken place, Shakalya had composed 5 sacred texts known as Samhitas, and he had taught these to his disciples Mudgala, Golaka, Khaliya, Matsya, and Shirya. Lomaharshi continued with Yajnavalkya's story. Vedavyasa taught the Yajnavalkya story. Vedavyasa taught the Yajurveda to Vaishampayana. Vaishampayana composed 66 Samhitas and taught them to his disciples. These disciples came to be known as the Charakas. Why did these disciples come to be known as Charakas? The sages asked Lomaharshana. Lomaharshana recited the following story. There was an occasion when an important religious rite had to perform. All the sages agreed to meet on Mount Sumeru so that they might decide on the modus operandi for observing this religious rite. It was also agreed that any sage who failed to attend the assembly on Mount Sumeru would be regarded as guilty of having committed a sin, and the sin would be equivalent in severity to the sin committed from killing a Brahman. For various reasons, Vaishampayana could not attend the assembly. For a sin that was equivalent to the sin committed in killing a Brahman, Vaishampayana had to perform severe penance. This involved the observance of a difficult religious rite. Vaishampayana told all his disciples, "Please help me in the observance of this difficult vrata." Amongst Vaishampayana's disciples were the Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya said, "Why are you bothering all these disciples? My powers of tapasya are such that I alone can perform what is required." Vaishampayana regarded this as unwarranted vanity on his disciples' part. He therefore told Yajnavalkya that he no longer wished to have Yajnavalkya as a disciple. Yajnavalkya should also return whatever it was that he had learned from Vaishampayana. Yajnavalkya therefore vomited out his knowledge of the Yajurveda. To reacquire the knowledge of the Vedas, Yajnavalkya started to meditate. He prayed to the sun god Surya. From Surya, Yajnavalkya came to acquired knowledge of the Yajurveda. Yajnavalkya taught this knowledge of the Yajurveda. Yajnavalkya taught this knowledge to 15 of his disciples. These disciples were named Kanva, Vaidheshali, Madhyandhina, Shapeya, Vidhika, Apya, Udala, Tamarayana, Vatsya, Galava, Shashri, Attavi, Ini, Virani, and Parayana. Why were Vaishampayana's disciples known as the Charakas? The word acharana means act. Since Vaishampayana had committed an act that was the equivalent of killing a Brahman, his disciples came to be known as Charakas. Lomaharshana also told the sages that he himself had taught the Purana to 6 of his disciples. These disciples were Sumati, Akritavana, Bharadwaja, Mitrayu, Savarani, and Shusharma.